to order, reconvene the December 13th, no, reconvene our Board of Supervisors meeting from November 10th. Purpose of the meeting tonight is to have a conversation with the department to discuss, social services board to discuss whether we'd like to advantages having an advisory board with administrative board. President on board supervisors is Mr. Blake Forehand, Madison, Mr. Jeff Civic from Bowling Green, Mr. Jeff Black from Western Carolina, Mr. Floyd Thomas from Carolina, Reggie Underwood, Miss Nancy Long from Fort. I guess I'm getting it. If you would, Ms. Wilson, to introduce your board.
Miss Betty Brown, Miss Nancy Long, and Dr. Garcia. Oh, I'm sorry. And Mr. Sean Perry. And Wendy Smith. And I'm ready.
And of course, I brought this up to Mr. Colby, I think, at first. And I was concerned. I felt like the board should take a little more active role with the social services board. Felt that we should be more together, more aligned. I think there are a lot of services that go on in the county, and I think the county, according to what we have in the books, the county contributes about $667,000 to the social services board, which is a large sum of money. And I think being advisory, I think there are a lot of things that could happen that put some of you members at risk. And I think that there should be a bigger blanket that's covered by the county to make sure there are no issues. I'm not saying there have been any issues. I'm not saying there are any issues at this time that need to be rectified, but certainly I think we need to take another look at it. I'd like to see it under the umbrella of the county. And that was my conversation. And I felt that at that point we come together, see how people feel about it, hear ideas, any concerns, pro or con. It's no right or wrong answer. So the floor is really open at this point.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll take one here, so it's loud as I would be here. I have enjoyed my time and continue to enjoy my time in the social services board. Wendy does a great job, but I do think if you look at, even though due to the agreement legally we're covered being called an advisory board, we could still do what we're doing now, but with being under the umbrella of the advisory board instead of an administrative board. Whereas if the county is the administrative board, employees have faster contact to human resources for insurance questions and that type of thing. They have, Wendy has faster access to legal advice. Mr. Cully can be a mediator if there's a conflict with anything. It just seems like having both boards concentrate on is a better service, working together with both board supervisors and the advisory board, working together can do better service for the community and communication wise as far as service wise. So I think it's worth considering us continuing to be as a social services board, but as an advisory, and with the county hold a position of administrative, because in truth, we don't do a lot administrative as far as employment goes and interviews and that type of thing. So I see this to be a big advantage as far as service goes in the county. So that's, and you can still concentrate on, the electric program, the Christmas programs, the things that are reading complaints from citizens that contact us when they're having issues. So that's my feeling on it.
Yes, sir.
Maybe board, 2 members, 2 minutes. Like,
2 minutes.
Right. So 6 times you prepare. What is it typically do? How long would it be?
A good 45 minutes.
On the agenda, they give us the budget planning, so the range of we need to best describe them. But we have an agenda that we go by every other month, and when you can change this, like protective services, anything like that.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah, standard agenda that you go
Yes.
through, and anything additional hot topic comes in. And
Yes. At a time in fashion.
And on the agenda, we generally puts a breakdown of how many cases and, if the, somebody applies for something, if the administrative portion of that, if the time is up or down, if they have a certain number of period of time to approve applications, if their ratings are up or down or below the state. It's pretty consistent there.
To add to what Nancy was saying, Wendy presents a whole series of metrics. And it's based on the state's requirements or recommendations as to for performance. And then goes over in places where they don't meet it, or exceed, circumstances that they need to treat.
Is there, is anyone on the state level? Dotted line, solid line, just so I understand the structure, it's solid line from the board to you, but is there a dotted line? You have an issue?
We have regional directors, I have central regional director that is available to, they do receive information from us, but I don't report to them.
Kind of like an interface.
There's a standard quarterly meeting that we all attend, and they're always available if we need guidance or information.
Push stuff down from the state, is it by that person? Is that how you get information from the state, or?
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
We get information from the state via many different people. Most of the information these days is coming from the state home office in Richmond, and it's disseminated to the entire state. The regional offices serve more as consultants to us. So there's a consultant in each program area that you do, and there's also a regional director who supervises those consultants, but also is in communication with us, with directors.
Shine. The common in the state.
Is it fair to say the regional director is there if we contact her, but she's not necessarily checking in every week or every month? It's more advisory. It's somebody you can go to if you have a question.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, or who may send clarification about a state mandate or something like that, but they don't serve in a supervisory capacity to me.
So the document, it's not real line,
that's all short of stuff.
Mr. Black,
I just get, like, I just think more than you, like, what is the, because we had this, I don't know, around spring or something, I don't know, like, May, it was May. So, I mean, it's been a while since we've had this topic come up, so what is the, difference from the, like, the lady, I don't think the lady that gave us the presentation. Really, just to, my understanding.
She is not.
Okay, so, that being said, from your perspective, what is the difference between, you know, what is being proposed and what's going on now, what are the differences?
My perspective of what's the difference? Or are you asking? I'm sorry, who are you asking?
Oh, just in general, I mean, what would be the major difference in services? How the structure, like, in other words, how would it affect day-to-day operations? What it look like? Yeah.
What it would look like if we changed is that I, as the director of social services, would be working for the county administrator.
So I guess what are the pros and cons of
Well, I think the pros of it is that I have a board that's represented by an appointee from each of you as the board of supervisors, so someone from each district who brings that unique perspective. They delegate duties to me, which is standard in the administrative board. The board members, particularly my chair, but the board members in general are available to me should I need anything. I, regardless of the type of board that I have, the administrative or advisory, I'm fortunate to have the support and guidance of our county administration that is immediately available to me. So I don't have a difference in that as far as support and guidance. I think historically, the DSS board over the years has functioned appropriately because it is focused on the successful operation of the agency via supervising the director. And in 2013, the board at that time did work to ensure the successful operation of the agency. And then again in 2014, a new director was hired and that was not successful. That director was terminated and then I was appointed. So I feel that the board has served administratively as it is needed to. At that time when I began, our agenda was probably 2 pages long. We had many issues that were the result of some time of a lot of issues happening. And we worked very hard together as a board and as employees of the agency to resolve all those issues so that after a couple of years, our agenda is now the shorter agenda that Mrs. Long sees when she comes, which is reporting statistical facts of benefits and services programs as far as quantity of cases and timeliness and meeting appropriate state outcomes. We also talk about budget, we talk about personnel matters. I ask for their approval if I make any changes to local policies, to employee handbook policies. I feel that has worked well and that there have not been issues in the administration of that agency. An advisory board would provide the same as far as some input, but it as its name is slowly advisory. And I would be adding to the county administration's burden by having 35 more employees that could have issues.
why would you say burden?
Because that would just be another department instead of my board having that role, which they can tend to, should they need to.
Your board still has a role, and if things are operating well, and Mr. Kelly has worked with the board before in that capacity, certainly I don't see it as an additional burden. I see this as an opportunity for us to be more efficient and for us to have more support. So I'm sorry you see that as a burden, but I can't by definition, that's what it is. Because
when you add another department to the county administrator, you're giving him responsibility for those people. Whether it's a burden or not, you're giving him an extra duty.
First day, I don't think it'd be anything, but with 35 employees, something's gonna crop up that we'll have to deal with on a personnel level, with Alan and I, as HR, and, grievances or whatever. I mean, all of my large departments, public works, utilities, and fire and rescue, those type of things crop up from now, not, it seems like it runs in threes, but
how many county employees we have right now?
400,
400 something. School has 700 plus. The school has 700 plus, and we're saying we can't.
well, I didn't say we couldn't get all
Okay, I just want
that.
to get an understanding of what burden this is from.
By definition, you're adding more people. Didn't we add the
We
library
did, we take now.
and you had personnel
Yeah.
issues with library?
We're working through one right now.
So, I mean, it's not saying it's a burden, it's saying there are other responsibilities.
The
And with that, there is a positive.
Yeah.
I explained this to the long earlier today. Social service employees sometimes are stepchildren. The state says they're not state employees. You're not county employees because you don't report to the board of supervisors. So they're in this world that's, they're not represented too well necessarily. And you may not think that you work there, but they sort of are stepchildren to both governments.
Kind of like some of the sheriff's deputies who
We
are.
have to advocate for ourselves.
That's what it's saying, No, Alcoa is completely state. They're completely state, and the state, the state doesn't call them local. See, the state called them local. So they say, you're the local social service department. We look at them from the county and go, you don't work for us, you're not county employees. So they're technically not a county employee. They're not on our personnel policies. They're not in things. Later tonight, there's an item on the agenda for bonuses. They are not included. They're not county employees. You could give it to them, but we don't push them forward as county employees. So with that burden of more management, that it is a benefit to the employees when you look at it that way. So like everything,
I'm just saying, by definition, when you add more people to your department, you add more issues.
correct, and I would not.
That's all.
There's the potential for more issues.
Right. Don't expect it to burst it.
Right, there, but there's a, well, I'm sorry. But there's, rather than look at the glasses half empty, it's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for us to be more efficient, for us to go, for us to all be under the same umbrella. So that the all left hand knows what the right hand is doing. So we're all on the same page. So there is no difference. If you're not part of the state, you're not part of the county, then I think there could be issue. I think it's an opportunity for additional support, additional guidance about,
What are the inefficiencies now?
I don't,
Especially like,
Could I just ask that one, what are the inefficiencies now? Because that's what you're saying, we could be more efficient. What is it?
No, I have a question. And then you can with this.
Okay, if somebody answer mine and then
right,
I'll be done.
This is one of my concerns, and you would answer this more than, because I've been on for 2 years, you've been on for 6. So now, and I know you dealt with one employee issue at the beginning of COVID, that was a mess. And, there may have been others, but right now, in our department, if we have someone that has an issue that they don't feel comfortable talking to, say, Mr. Sheeple about, they're in Public Works, they have someone that they can go to and talk to. Right now, they have an issue, this quarter, Pam.
Pam's missing out.
Pam Smith's now, yeah.
So that people don't pay
If our
attention to anything.
employees, social services have an issue that they're not comfortable talking to Wendy about, with 31 employees, I would think there's been somebody over the past couple of years that's wanted to talk about something. I've never gotten a call. How many calls have you all gotten from employees that need to talk about an issue that they don't feel comfortable?
Well, we did in the past, when there was a lot going on. We had several,
During the COVID period?
no,
Or double?
it was always cold. When,
Before the COVID?
yeah, before the
In the
cold.
past.
I'm gonna spell it out. Person had a disagreement, did what they had to do, and to me, they were very disrespectful to the department. We met several times in closed session. I'm still trying to figure out why. Because if you are man enough to turn in your resignation and you leave, I don't have a reason to listen to your complaints because you have terminated yourself. And if you terminate yourself, you go your merry way. Okay. No one should represent you in a closed session because you're no longer county employee or state employee. And to me, there's a confusion. You don't know who you're working technically for. See who they are working for. They're working for the county, they're working for the state. But I do understand that both has to be in it to make it work. I feel like this. I've been here 6, going on 7 years. It has been some good times, and it has been some bad times. Well, what I will say was unnecessary stuff. I will take my hat off to Wendy, just like when the COVID came. She kept us abreast on the COVID, not running around, oh, this person, that person, and the other person. But the COVID. She keeps us abreast on financial reports. She keeps us abreast on things that goes on. That's from I'm looking at it from a county view. If it was coming from a state view, all would be jumbled up like what everybody in the state is doing, and Caroline might be number 70 on the list. Now I ask you a question, because I really don't understand. We're having a joint board meeting. Why are we having a joint board meeting? To get to see what y'all do and y'all to see what we do?
No, it's to have a discussion about if we, from my perspective, yes, from my perspective. I wanted to meet because I wanted to see if it would make more sense to be advantageous for you to be advisory board or a supervisory board. So that's the purpose of the meeting. It's not to get into who is having a disagreement or get into the weeds. It's to give, I think, a little more structure as well to the whole organization. I mean, whether your budget is how much total? Okay, let's say it's $1.5 million, and the county puts in $3 million.
3.3.
She has a $3.3 million budget to do for the citizens of Caroline County. To do for the children of Caroline County, to do for our senior citizens of Caroline County. And certainly from my perspective, I have nothing bad to say. I just want a little more structure, that's all. So all I'm trying to do is pull us all under the same umbrella. That was my thought. So,
If I could add to that, I'm sorry, Ed. But I guess one of my feelings is Wendy does and Ann, and they do a great job, but that's not it. I've never worked any place where, if I had even a minor issue or something that I didn't have someone who was particularly ready to either help me with insurance, help me with legal claim, help me just solve maybe an issue I was having with another employee. And I'm sure Wendy does those things, but to me, that's managed, that is, administrative. I've been to Wendy's, although she certainly has welcomed me there. I've toured it, I've said hi to the ladies, but I'm certainly not qualified. I don't know them personally. If they call me for something, it would be starting over. I wouldn't know the health regulations, anything like that. It just seems like by joining forces together, we could create an easier working environment for employees, and we can concentrate and still keep our board going as advisory. We see a need, be it a clothing drive or more food in the food pantry, or there's an area that needs help and we need funds for it. We can then go to the administrative board to see what was available. It just seems like two fronts, Army, Navy, is stronger than one by itself. And that's what I wanted to look at.
Can I ask a question? One of the things that the presentation that you made, and I actually called Sean right after, so I thought it was very interesting. The lady, and I'm starting to call it lady politics. And I hear all the time, well, because you get sued, when you do this, we get sued. Well, guess what, we're going to sue no matter what. And we sometimes we make decisions. And so we played in this politics of fear, and she was really big on the politics of fear. And one of the things was, that the social services board, in time of, I guess, when you have a situation where things aren't going so well, there's big threat of lawsuits. So my question is, are you guys covered? Because the lady of the presentation was my kind of take on this. Yes.
What she was saying was that, and we were shocked when she said it, that you were personally liable as board members.
That's true.
Not the best that we can find. We had Sans Anderson look into that and see where they could find anybody that had been personally sued. As a group, you can. Middlesex Board was sued when somebody was terminated wrong. They got their job back, but nobody was personally sued. So, as a collective body, occasionally, if you remember back, board members here were personally sued back 2015 for some
Many times.
personally sued. How many times do you have to pay on that?
No.
So most of the time that is some sort of threat, but we couldn't find any case law or anything where anybody was personally liable for a decision made by a body. Now, if you were doing something that can be proven as underhanded conspiracy outside of your role as a board, there's not that it could be. You could be personally sued, but to be personally liable, you'd have to almost be doing something that was criminal or something like that.
Willful misconduct and gross negligence.
That's right.
This conversation didn't come about because of her presentation. We kind of solved her out after we had
We had
talked about
another,
it. to see
Mrs.
what
Long had
she
another,
was-
but
Right.
she was part of the presentation, though. She was supposed to.
No, she was supposed to give us information, but she wasn't in any way the impetus about the suit. So that wasn't even the point of it.
Who does zero?
They found that's okay.
But that direction, but they can't. I would know how to do it, but
And the HR, you have to wear an HR hat as well.
no,
The,
that's a benefit.
our HR, our human resources policy is the state's human resource policy. And the change,
Person,
the person,
who do you call and say, look, this person just said that they're not gonna do X, and I want them to do X. As far as a progressive discipline, I'm just gonna start this back.
if progressive discipline comes through the supervisor and then to me as the director. And from there, it goes on to the state HR department.
So it's.
And we follow that policy, and that will not change
That
if we
wouldn't
change
change,
the
right.
board title.
Would you count supervisors at hand? Or does each program have a supervisor?
I have a services, family services supervisor, Olivia Dillon, I have a benefit program supervisor, Maureen Dillon. And then I have Ann as assistant director, who also looks over benefits and administration.
All the state benefits as well.
The benefit programs, benefits.
No,
I'm looking at employee.
that's coming from the county.
That comes from the county.
Yeah,
That comes from the county.
Now, insurance, health insurance.
And regardless of the type of board that we have,
That's-
that hasn't changed,
I
but
don't
we
know if
have
it's coming from the state.
we have the immediate access to that. Our board type change,
Wouldn't alleviate that, wouldn't.
it wouldn't change that, and we still go straight to the county for issues about employee benefits or employee payroll issues. That's the same, and we have immediate access.
The real change, I become her boss is to the 7 people that are appointed. That is the key change.
But this board would still be as an advisory.
It would have all to do over everything to do with benefit programs, all of those Christmas, all of those things would not have a budget role other than, here's what we're thinking about for the budget. The budget would come from her to me, which it ultimately does anyway. Because whatever they give me, if I don't like it, I'm cutting it, so, because I gotta make it fit in the overall budget. But it would just be, it just basically takes these people.
But
I'll give you an
umbrella.
example. It's, if the planning commission was overseeing the planning department, you appoint the planning commission, they handle planning matters. They don't supervise. It really is basically that simple. Do you want an appointed board to manage the department? Or do you want the county? I'm not asking for it, so let's make sure that we're clear. I'm just trying to explain. And the simplest term it is, if you think about the planning commission, it's those 6 people you have on that, and they deal with the code and hearings and all that. They don't tell my attention who what to do. That's my job. It's that simple.
If I could add in, I've been on the social services board for a year now and had a chance to kind of observe and find out how things run. What I see is that we are responsible for what is most fair and effective in 3 categories. One is the employees of Wendy, the social services. Second is the Caroline residents who are in need of the services. And the third is the stewards of taxpayers' money and resources. We are not experts in any of those areas. Basically, what we do is I was appointed, Nancy nominated me and the board approved my appointment. And we liaison with people in our districts. We want to make sure that their needs are covered. That's really what it comes down to. So when Wendy does a presentation every other month for 60 days, then we look at, how are the metrics? Are we meeting what the state recommends in terms of the level and timeliness of services and resources provided to our residents? If they aren't, then she provides a reason why, but we don't go any deeper than that. So we're not experts in HR, we had some HR issues come up. And I don't know, personally, I don't believe it's fair to employees, and I'm not saying we have any, but if it should arise, as Nancy mentioned, that they have a grievance or a problem, where do they go? They go to Wendy, and if they're not satisfied, where do they go? They're not calling me, on a weekend and saying I've got a problem. So I think that the employee needs perhaps could be served better if they had a better structure that's in place to go through the county. Just as an example for things like grievances. The other thing I just want to bring up before I turn it over to someone else who wants to talk is that there is a real time delay in this. Maybe every 60 days. And so, for example, at our last meeting, there was an issue that came up in terms of the employee handbook that the state had changed. And it has some real repercussions in terms of resources and funds. And it's a real problem. And we're not experts in how to even offer suggestions on how to resolve it. Besides, have you talked to the county? Have you talked to the county's attorneys? Have you talked to state attorneys? And we haven't heard anything back. It's not that the good intention isn't there to resolve these things in a timely way and to really be a good steward of the resources. But I just don't think in the structure we have right now that we're not doing the best job that could be done. We're doing individually the best jobs we can, but I would welcome making a change, and I think it would serve the county, our residents, and the resources much better.
If you make the change, can I?
Sure.
If you make the change, they basically go what?
No,
They become, if they accept the appointment, they're appointed to an advisory role, which is in the code, the things that they are.
We would have 6 advisory positions. Okay. The other thing is, and nobody has ever answered my original question, what inefficiencies we have, but I'll leave that out there for later.
but she just mentioned a couple right there. I think,
No, those weren't inefficiencies, those were points.
no,
They weren't
I think no.
Inefficiencies are things that are wrong.
No, and things that could be done better. I said more efficient. Doesn't mean you're deficient. It just means things could be better. So that's what it means. When you pave over a road, you're still driving on that road. What you're trying to do is just make it a little smoother. It's still, cars still drive up and down roads.
Okay, that's a very bad analogy. considering how
No,
that
no,
does
no.
But there's holes in the road and you just, and you go the hole. And it's still gonna be
That's
a
what
hole.
we're saying.
That's the point.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
So the other thing is, you meet 6 times a year. Would it be more efficient if you met every month, like other boards?
So we have, and I don't know how long I've been on the board, 4 or 5 years or whatever, but we have had meetings that were more than those 6 times. Like if something has come up, Wendy has said, you know, I would like to have a meeting, you know, next week, you know, or a COG meeting, right? And so those have happened, maybe not in the last 2 years since you've been here, but if there are things that were
See, that's
were needed immediately, if that was the issue.
And
then
previously,
she
the
has
board met monthly,
that's what I
but
thought.
then the issues became smaller and smaller, and the need was not there. So we went to meeting every other month, but have the ability at their discretion to change that, to either as needed additionally or change it back to monthly.
So you were meeting every month. But then things became so smooth, you didn't have to meet every month, so you went to every other one.
That was the decision.
Okay, so things were going well, you stopped meeting. And now you're saying you need more information, so maybe you do need to go back to month or some more training.
Well,
Maybe,
I believe we need more expertise,
yeah,
and I don't believe that
which is going to be
training,
charged.
well, I don't believe that training for our board members is the issue. I don't need to become an expert in HR. I'm a psychologist, I work for federal
Oh, you
agencies.
should be able to fix a lot of stuff.
So I don't need additional training. And even when there's a request to have an emergency meeting of the board, which sounds, you know, very dramatic, we don't have a clear line as to when that is done and who can call it. But, you know, even then, are the members available to me?
Yeah, that's why I was thinking when you were scheduled for once a month, you should just stick on that schedule and then
Right.
cancel when you're not doing it.
Right.
Last question. How many grievances have you had in the past couple of years?
None.
So we're planning for something that doesn't happen.
If we could look at it a different way, ask how many people have left and why.
Okay.
We don't have, and currently there are no exit interviews done, we've asked about that, and they're not being done, so we don't know we don't have an objective, exit interview for the data to tell us why an employee left.
Now, who does
And
that?
in truth,
Who does
I
that?
don't think anybody volunteered to do anything other than an advisory board because we're not trained in management or human resources or environment. You know,
I have a statement. As I told you, you were from government. It's different than county and state.
I work with other organizations.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. If I decide I want to leave this board, I don't have to give anybody a reason. I can just come, turn my resignation into Wendy and leave. It's my business. It's not your business. So why should we waste time and money following up on why I left?
I'm sorry, I wasn't here. I'm not talking about why a board member is leaving.
No, why employee? I can choose myself in the example. If you are employee, why would you leave? If you want to leave, that's your problem, is to leave. We don't need to know.
Well, see, in that sense, I think I would want to know, and I would want to know for several different reasons, because if you're leaving because it's a hostile work environment, your manager doesn't know what you're doing, or you got a $10,000 raise going somewhere else. I need to know from a management perspective, and I mean, I don't expect you guys to be HR professionals. I don't expect you to be budget professionals. I expect you to be regular folks, just like I think I am, a regular folks that can sit and logically figure out what's going on or have an idea. And I know Ms. Brown has kicked me out of the electoral board enough times to know she's going to say what's on her mind, and that's what we expect. I mean, at least for me. So are you guys not saying what's on your mind? Is that the thing? Or you feel like you got to hold up?
I'm not, so I don't think you can just lump it into one basket, because this is not a one basket conversation. Again, I brought this up because I wanted us to be as efficient as possible to make sure all the i's were dotted, all the t's were crossed. That's it. It wasn't one specific grievance by Joe Blow. It wasn't one person who missed, who thought they were not treated right by social service. It wasn't of this. You guys are trying to lump it into one issue, and it's not a one issue. That's why we're having this conversation. It's about, can we be more efficient in terms of our organization or not? Would having Mr. Cully oversee and that be part of the county's overarching umbrella, would that make us better? And I think so, because of the.
Well, better and efficient are different terms.
If you're more
Is that
efficient,
Mr. Cully
if
to
we're
make us more efficient?
it's gonna make us more efficient, which makes us better.
It better not be, because when I got a problem, I want him, and I don't want him talking to somebody in social services about their problem.
No, that's not his.
That's the reality.
That's not his role.
Is that,
He's
not what we're
gonna
saying?
let HR do that, or he's gonna give it to legal or someone else, but it's management. It's overall management of how you do things systematically, that everybody knows they march to the same drum beats. Everybody knows how to do a process. Everybody knows what's entailed. So it's not just one item. You guys are being very narrow-minded at this point about.
I'm confused about,
Why
why,
should be confused?
why it's being brought up.
Yes.
When social services and Wendy is not asking for it. And I don't hear from her that it would be more efficient. I'm not hearing from her that she thinks it will be better and more efficient for her and her staff. And then also, each of you appointed each of us. And Jeff Black appointed me. And I'll tell you, Jeff, if you think there's somebody better that has the expertise, then please appoint that person. And so, and that part is up to y'all to do on who you choose to be on this part.
That's,
And then
that's
my
my
other
issue.
question, just my question on this is, who decides what kind of board we are? Is that you as board of supervisors
Yeah.
decide that, or us? Okay.
Now, let me go back to you, all right, let me go back to your first question. It's not about you being this, that, or the other. I talk to neighbors about different issues. So, I mean, we communicate. That's not, again, you're making this so narrowly focused that it's about a professional organization and just trying to make it the best it can be. And whether Wendy's asking for it or not, to me, doesn't make a bit of difference. If I believe and I hear and I see, and I think we can be better, then I'm gonna put it on the table. But it's up to this board to decide, not my decision. We all have disagreements about it, but certainly I'm gonna bring it to this board and put it on the table.
Are we performing as our services, are we performing better than average in the county?
As far as the programs go, time-wise, except for a couple of things, occasionally they might drop down, they always come back up. So the programs, time-wise, are doing well. My concern is I am not a train manager. I don't think anyone else is. I feel great with advising and making suggestions and bringing up problems my citizens contact me with, or making suggestions for this or that. Can I, after 2 years, walk into social services and do I know employees by name? And if that's something we're all willing to do, to sit down, I'm just thinking we should be an advisory board instead of an administrative board, unless we're willing to spend time administrating and learning how to administrate and sort of supervise. I don't think that's what we signed up for. I think we just signed up to represent our districts, to bring issues forward, and then turn them over to Wendy, and she deals with them. But if there is an issue, we don't.
As far as what we signed up for, Jeff Black was very clear on what my role would be. And I knew that my role was supervisory and administrative, and so he was clear on that. And so I did sign up for it, knowing that that's what it was. I
I'm
don't,
not supervising administrative, you.
I mean, we supervise Wendy,
Right.
but my thing is, I just think having more people and resources for the employees to reach out to would be an advantage to the employees. And I like taking care of our employees, but I don't necessarily want to go down and have full fuzzy time or yelling and sitting in with Wendy while she disciplines somebody, because she does that well, because I wouldn't go up against Wendy.
And that's why you as the board delegate these authorities to me.
that's right.
And you remain an administrative board, but you delegate these duties to me. And
But you shouldn't have to, an employee shouldn't have to wait 60 days or 30 days or even 2 weeks.
But they
if
don't.
there's an issue.
they don't, because if they go through our grievance process, then they go straight to the state. It doesn't change that. It doesn't change my ability to access legal advice. It doesn't change my access to county
The
administration.
employees would still go to the state. Even if.
So we have about 3 minutes before our next meeting. Clearly, I don't think we're going to come to a decision this evening. I don't think there.
That's
So
not
I
on the
think,
agenda.
right, so I think what we can do is table the January and put it on the agenda for
One last question.
Yes, sir.
The dynamic of the school board, when I first found board supervisor on that superintendent, he advised me that the role of the superintendent is to bring ideas to the school board for consideration. And I told him, I said, well, that's exactly backwards of what I feel like the board supervisor does.
Thank you.
It's, yeah, there are some things, but it's the school board members aren't in the schools, they don't know how the education program is being implemented, they don't know how the employees are being treated, they don't know all those things. We don't either. But we have the benefit of knowing people out in the community because we all live, so, you know, we all live in the same community.
Shop food lots of it. Tell us.
Right. How does this board, and you know, are there things that you as a board have agreed on to look about, Wendy, we want you to do X? What was the last thing, or has there been something in the last couple of years they all agreed upon that you were, a new responsibility you're putting on? Because I'll say, well, we know how things in Charlotte all the time. I can't speak for the school board, but is it, which model, or is it the school board model that the superintendent kind of wags dog?
Well,
They had no right
reality,
or
my
vice versa?
my point, Clay, is that the state does that. The state gives almost everything that she has to do to her. I mean, you know, the majority of the money's coming from the state, and all of the rules of what she can do comes from the state.
But it affects the citizens of Caroline County. Affects the
They're also
children of
citizens of
Caroline
the state.
County, that's right. But the $667,000 comes from the citizens of Caroline County. How it's administered and how things are done to the efficiency of the citizens of Caroline County is our responsibility.
Which you
It's
have
our
given us.
responsibility. And you have it now, and perhaps I think we need to take a second look at it, of how it's being done. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, so I'll tell you what, we won't finish this conversation, but it's been good. You know, there are more than two sides to this coin, but we'll continue a conversation and we'll take a look at it. Maybe next year we can have a discussion. Board members, I appreciate you guys coming. Ladies, again, thank you. And this meeting is adjourned. Take 5 minutes, guys.